So today we're here with Brian Barrenferry from Ohio, and I'm going to let Brian kind of introduce himself, tell about his title and what he is, but we're going to be talking about the COVID-19 closures across the country with this. We're going to reach out to a segment mid-country and on either end, I hope, and we want to get all this information out to the public so everybody knows what's going on, Brian, so they can make informative decisions when they're going to recreate in the outdoors, whether that's fishing, hunting turkeys in the spring, or just going out for anything. And the fishing game usually holds all those answers. So we want to get that out nationwide, John and I. And he's on one side of the country, I'm on the other side. And we're going to try to get everybody to talk about what's going on, because it seems to be a little bit different in every place. And that's what people need to know when they go to recreate. It's a little bit different. So before you cross those state lines, you really ought to check. And then check what's good for residents and what's going on there. So thanks, Brian, for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, glad to be here. Like you said, my name's Brian Barrenferry. I'm the Executive Administrator of Information and Education for the Ohio Division of Wildlife. I spent 20 years in the field as a county wildlife officer and law enforcement investigator with the Division of Wildlife. Still maintain my commission and very active with our enforcement folks, but also now supervise graphics, communication, customer engagement, and outdoor skills. So little bigger role, but still super active with.
I'm going to put you on the list for a podcast later too, Brian, because that's you,
Sure.
You've got a host of information there. That's pretty awesome.
That's great stuff. Yeah.
Pretty good career up to this point.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a good spot for you right now. And as game wardens, we are definitely information people generally when we deal with the public one-on-one and getting that out there. So, and this is kind of groundbreaking for us, isn't it? This situation.
Yeah, this is definitely a new era that I don't think any of us have seen in our times or our careers. That's for sure. I mean, it's definitely new.
Yeah, staying at home isn't in our forte. At least it's not in mine.
Yeah, it's not. But I got to be honest. I mean, 20 years ago, if this would have happened, we would be in a much bigger world of hurt.
We would have.
Look at us. We got three of us in three different states able to have a conversation that can get out to everybody.
That's pretty awesome.
The kids these days who are officers outside of our generation, the newer people, are so much more advanced in their technological skills, the things they're able to operate, or even our biologists. We got so many things that actually this bad situation kind of forced us into with video series, and we're having schools chat with a biologist, and we're getting that out there. So yeah, but 20 years ago we couldn't have done any of this. So yeah, out of a lot of good things sometimes are born out of a necessity and out of bad situations. So we are making the best of it. Our guys are doing a good job.
Yeah, and all of that is
awesome, Brian. And one of the things we talk about is always learning from failures or catastrophes, and what do we take into the next phase. And to your point, Wayne, I know we talked about this before, is if this had happened 10 or 20 years ago, without the information chain we have via digital technology, we'd be a train wreck. And look at all the real-time updates we're getting, not only on the COVID-19 as it affects health and human safety and where the pandemic is, what states are doing on the health side, but on wildlife issues, we wouldn't be talking. We'd be in the dark as far as game wardens and wildlife agencies nationwide if it wasn't for this technology. So at least we know, and we've practiced, heaven forbid this happens again after this COVID-19 thing settles down, but we'll be a little more ready, I think, next time around. If and hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, we can talk like this and we can get that information out. And it's getting hot right now with all these spring seasons just about to start, man. We got a lot of anglers and hunters kind of frustrated, pulling their hairs out all over the country.
Right. Yep. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Maumee River, Lake Erie run for walleye kicked off just a couple weeks ago, and that is always a huge event. A lot of people. The fishery up there right now is just fantastic. A lot of fish in catchable age classes, a lot of trophy size fish out there. We just And then we just had our second biggest hatch ever recently. So those fish will be coming into the system as this class now starts to go away. So, I mean, the Lake Erie fishery is going to be just absolutely hot for years to come. But, it is attracting people. And
Sure.
they do have to, we have been putting out social media posts, and we've posted signs, and, we've told everybody a fishing pole is about 6 foot. So that's a pretty good tester to make sure you're doing appropriate social distancing. And I said, fishermen have been engaging, that for years, because if you're within 6 foot of somebody with a fishing pole, you're probably going to catch a hook in the eye anyway.
You're in trouble.
So,
Right. No one wants to be that close when you're
right.
angling,
So it kind of solves itself. Both our wildlife staff and our division of park staff, I know, has worked hard at a lot of the boat ramps, the public boat ramps, to keep that spread out and keep people distance. And it is tough because people want to enjoy that resource, and we want to be able to provide that ability, because there are people that are stir crazy and stuck in the house right now, and they want to get out.
Sure.
So at least for our residents now, we did have a couple changes here just a few days ago. We did shut off the ability for a non-resident to purchase a fishing license or any type of hunting license or tag. So as far as turkey season or fishing through this process, they're not going to be able to get a tag or a license. Now, if that non-resident is currently in possession of a valid fishing license or valid hunting license that they had previously purchased, it's still going to be legal. They still can come to the state and fish, but the governor's office is asking them to quarantine for 14 days before they were to do that. So it's not reasonably overly feasible for that to happen, but legally still is an option.
Yeah, we're having the same situation out here in the Pacific Northwest. I'm up here in northwestern Montana, and even though we haven't, our Fish, Wildlife, and Parks haven't shut down non-residents from hunting, they have to do the 14-day quarantine. If they do use that non-resident bear license that opens next week, none of the hotels are open, none of our campgrounds are open, so no one really has anywhere to stay, even though they have a valid license and tag. And then in Idaho, right next door, they just announced just yesterday, almost mirror image of what you're doing out there in Ohio, in that non-residents just can't get a license. They can't get a tag this time around. If they do have it, they can come to the state, but they're going to be under quarantine, and they're going to have pretty much nowhere to really stay unless they're coming for a day hunt. So it's effectively shut it down from, state by state, interstate transport with non-residents hunting in pretty much every state up here in the Northwest. Seems to mirror what you're doing out there.
And that, as you guys all well know, that's a difficult thing for state fish and game agencies to do, because we spend our careers trying to market things and get people in and get non-residents and things like that to try and generate income for Pittman Roberts reasons and that federal aid dollars and things that obviously state agencies need, wildlife agencies need to pull off their mission. So it's a little bit foreign for us to be able to do that, and it's not something we took lightly. I mean, we're all every single one of us is an outdoorsman at heart. Most of us got into this because of hunting, fishing, trapping, the shooting sports, bird watching, whatever it is, but some sort of love and connection to the great outdoors, and we've spent our lives trying to share that love and connection with people. So it's not something we're used to doing.
Right. And
it's not. It's tough, right, Wayne? I mean,
yeah.
Last thing we want to do is tell people don't come hunting. We thrive on this, and we thrive on promoting conservation and building numbers, not decreasing. And I'm afraid, I'm sure you guys share the same sentiment, we can talk about this, but I'm concerned now that this pandemic is going to shut so much hunting down through the spring, and it might even affect our fall seasons, which are hypercritical when deer, elk, bear, all our big game species in all of our states, when our bread and butter is really made for conservation funding. If this goes into that, I fear we're going to lose hunting numbers when we're already declining in conservationists nationwide. And none of us want to see that. We'd like everybody to be in these states, but not a message we want to send. And I just hope the public understands, because there's a lot of angry hunters out there. I got a lot of friends that wanted to come hunt Montana for spring bear next week, and Idaho and everything else. And I go, guys, don't be mad at the messenger. This is a health thing. This is something we have to do for management. We're looking long term, and they understand it. But there's a little bit of emotion involved because, like
Sure.
us guys, they're passionate, as you guys know.
I mean, it's to a lot of
It's
people,
hard.
to a lot of us, it's a way of life. It's not a, it's
you
not
said
just
it.
an activity. I mean, we build our entire lifestyles around these outdoor pursuits. And, when that gets taken away, even for a valid reason, it still doesn't make it easy.
Right. And I think the important part is to let the sportsmen know there's no malice in this. Just like you said, we're in it together. We hated to do this. It affects our budgets because that's what New Hampshire, at least, strives on. That's where the main budget for the law enforcement division comes from.
Yep.
Is
Absolutely.
license sales. So if we're not selling license, we're really impacting ourselves in the long run, and it's going to hurt. So it's definitely not something we want to do. It's something we have to do. So I think that's important.
In Ohio, we get very little general revenue fund out of the tax base. I mean, we are almost totally supported on hunting, fishing, trapping, shooting sports, legacy stamps, income tax, but it's all basically in-house generated. So it's not a decision we take lightly, that's for sure. But it's in the long run, it's to keep everybody as safe as we can, to flatten that curve, to keep the numbers down, so therefore people can get back into it and enjoy it later.
Right. And Brian, you said you haven't shut down your boat access as of yet to anybody. Your boat accesses are open?
Yeah, so any of the state-run boat accesses and ramps are open. Mm-hmm. Now there have been, there are different entities that own river and lake access and boat ramps and things like that. So municipalities, private entities, and metro parks and things like that, all are making their own calls on what they're leaving open and what they're closing. We still went through with our trout releases, which we have quite a few that we do throughout the state of Ohio. Great. We did it a little bit different this year. We didn't publicize the exact date, but kind of went with the week of. It's a tough deal, but a lot of those people stand there and wait on the fish truck to come in, and we want to do our part.
All together tight.
Right. Wanted to kind of do our part to try and spread them out. We tried to spread out the fish throughout the system a little bit more to get that social distancing in play. But I mean, you can only keep trout in a hatchery so long. They
grow.
They cost a lot of money to. That's a big problem. I mean, you raise them with the intent to release them, and you have to get them out in the water. If not, it backs up, and it's a domino effect on the whole hatchery process. So we kind of had to do that for a number of reasons, and we do want people to be able to get them and enjoy them, and like I said, enjoy the resource, but we got to do it responsibly right now.
Nope, absolutely.
Yeah, one of the cool things you're doing in your state, Brian, that I love seeing is you're exercising safe social distancing practices to deal with COVID-19 without shutting down the opportunity. It's a nice balance. It's still safe from a human health standpoint, but people get that opportunity not only for the benefit of the conservation sports and for the agency, but just to get out from going stir crazy.
Exactly.
I think anyone now would like to be on a shoreline, even if they didn't catch a thing, just because they feel like they're in the outdoors and not pinned up anymore,
Right. I mean, mental health issues and depression and things like that are certainly issues during things like this. And the studies and statistics show that outdoor recreation is huge in helping to combat depression and other mental health type issues. And people need to have the opportunity to get out and blow off some steam and go for a hike and mushroom hunt. And right now, we've kept all of our forests open, all of our wildlife areas for those activities. Nice. And hey, resident turkey season's still coming up. I can't imagine wanting to turkey hunt with a group larger than 6 anyways. So if you have, turkey hunting is a pretty solitary sport, maybe you and a buddy, but even under the best of times, you're sitting 6 to 10 foot apart generally. So, I think that if people are going to have to police themselves a little bit. Government can only, they can provide the guidelines and the recommendation and the suggestions, but it does take, the individual making a decision to help move this along as well. We all want to see it over as soon as possible. as many people that pay attention and actually follow these recommendations, it's going to help everybody in the end.
Agreed. Yeah.
And let's face it, your residents are going to be psyched. It's going to be a lot less competition.
Well, I can say on our social media platforms we have seen a couple positive comments in that regard. But our governor right now, DeWine, and Mary Mertz, our director, and Steve Gray, assistant director, and Kendra Wecker, our chief. I mean, they are all super supportive of outdoor recreation, of the outdoor sports. Governor DeWine's a huge fisherman, loves to do it with his kids and grandkids, and
nice.
Mary Mertz is a big kayaker and outdoors woman, and Steve Gray was one of our past chiefs. He's now an assistant director, and Kendra Wecker, both big outdoor. So we all are in this together, literally.
Yeah,
we all care about the same things, but we also care about each other and human health, and and people's grandparents and children, and they're finding even younger people that you didn't think were going to be susceptible to this are. So,
yep.
We all need to do the right thing here too.
Boy, you said that perfect. That was perfect, Brian. So I think we can end there, because I think we got a good feel for what Ohio's doing, and I think I appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us, so we can get that out to people nationwide as they listen to all these people across the nation that are making these tough decisions. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of similar things, but a lot of different things as well, which is unique. New Hampshire hasn't shut down non-residents yet. We're a very small state. We are going to, it sounds like, to online turkey registrations, which, as you guys know, is good and bad. So
yeah, we've been doing that for years and kind of have it down now.
Okay.
It works. It works. Well, I was a little leery of it when we do it with deer too.
Okay.
And honestly, I'll tell you what, the nice part is, from a law enforcement standpoint, is you can access that information immediately.
Wow.
Back in the old school days, I used to have to sit and dig through stacks of paper to find something I needed. It's instantaneous. We can tell when somebody bought their tag, when somebody killed their deer, when somebody checked it in. I mean, we've made a lot of awful good cases on it. So a lot of stuff I was leery about with my old school mentality has been changed, because it's really been overall a big help for us. And you know what? The same guy that isn't going to make the phone call or the online thing is the same guy that was driving past the gas station 20 years ago and not stopping.
No.
So
yeah,
good point.
Exactly.
You're going to a poacher's a poacher, so that's our job to catch them.
That's a great thing to say on Warden's Watch. I love it. So that was
yeah.
So that wasn't a good ending, or that was the good ending.
Yeah, that worked out well.
Great.
Wow,
Sure.
Brian, really appreciate you coming on, and good to talk to you, and we'll stay in touch and see what progresses through this thing. And
Absolutely.
one thing is, like we said at the start of the broadcast, we have this technology. We can kind of unite on the thin green line conservation officer front of what's happening nationally, and Wayne and I will be digging every state that wants to talk. We want to share it. So starts with you, buddy. It's really cool to meet you today.
Hey, anytime. Give me a call.
Thanks, Brian.